Welcome to a new year of Art of Poetry. Oh, I'm so glad you could join us. My heart is just so full of joy and gratitude for the new year and for all the blessings that we have received. I like to start a show. I'm Frank Crowley with a couple introductions and thank yous. Thank you, Emily. You came in and you're doing yeoman's work. And Chris, of course, our director. We miss Max today, but I will be bringing some help for February 16th. Tune in then. Gratitude. Thank you for a new year, 22. And I'm going to start each show this year with what's called a blessing, but I really think it's a poem. And it's someone I've had here before, John O'Donohue. What a wonderful, wonderful collection of blessings. And in that vein, I want to celebrate all the first responders and the frontline workers that we've had who have done yeoman's work. And as the nurses say recently on TV, we're depleted, we're exhausted, we have nothing left, and yet they still go on. This is so tender a moment to say thank you. Well, to retrieve the lost art of blessing, John O'Donohue, to bless the space between us. There's a kindness that dwells deep down in things. It presides everywhere, often in the places we least expect. The world can be a harsh and negative place, but if we remain generous and patient, kindness inevitably reveals itself. It does, doesn't it? Even in the darkest times of the last few years. Personally, I want to thank the nurses as a special blessing and gratitude. Again, it's in the form of a poem. For a nurse, your mind knows the world of illness, the fright that invades a person arriving in, out of the world, distraught and grieved by illness, how it can strip a life of its joy, dim the light of the heart, put shock in the eyes. You see worlds breaking at the onset of illness. Young lives that should be out in the sun enjoying life with wild hearts come in here lamed by accident, and the lucky ones who leave already old and in captive posture. To be continued with a new thank you and a new gratitude for all the people in our lives as we go month by month. So, welcome again. Art of Poetry. This starts our 5th year. We're thrilled. I'm not really a solo show today. I've got the spirit of Dorothy Parker right behind me in something she might have worn in the 20s. So we're going to do women poets for the next 2 and 3 shows. Great poems for and by American women. This is wonderful. A full collection. I'm going to start with Dorothy Parker. And I think some of you who may know her name may not have been familiar with all of her poetry. So, Chris, could you pull up an intro for Dorothy Parker? And we're going to be in for a treat because we're going to hear her voice too on 2 or 3 poems that follow, and I'll call them up as we go. But it's sure good to have a recording of the original voice. Imagine she was born turn of the century and came into full flower in the 20s and 30s. So Here we go.
Dorothy Parker wrote some of the funniest poems ever published, but at the heart of nearly every one was some deep and painful truth about love, aging, suicide, or any number of other modern problems. Parker's poems are usually short and lead up to a powerful, witty punchline, as do all three of the ones here. One Perfect Rose pokes fun at romance. Her very short poem, Resume, is probably her best-known work. It often shows up in movies and on television programs. Perhaps this is to be expected, as Parker wrote film scripts, as well as short stories and poems. In Afternoon, Parker again finds the downside of life, even when it seems ideal.
So, she is a gifted linguist. And really, what is wit but the manipulation of words? A gifted poet, as witty as you can imagine, as witty as they come. And as you heard, a varied career. She actually wrote the story of A Star is Born with another co-author in the 30s. Imagine that. What a variety to her. So, born on August 22nd, 1893, today Dorothy Rothschild is remembered as Dorothy Parker, changed her name, second husband. So let's hear the first poem in her own voice and enjoy it.
One perfect rose. A single flower he sent me since we met. All tenderly his messenger he chose, deep-hearted, pure, with scented dew still wet. One perfect rose. I knew the language of the floweret. My fragile leaves, it said, his heart enclose. Love long has taken for his amulet one perfect rose. Why is it no one ever sent me yet one perfect limousine, do you suppose? Ah, no, it's always just my luck to get one perfect rose.
There's the undercut. She's undercutting the emotion that builds up in the poem. She keeps doing that, redirecting the attention away from the buildup of emotion and just dissipating it with a quip or a funny expression. One perfect limousine. Of course, of course. The language of the floweret, she says. You know, a rose as a gift speaks a volume of words. I loved her sound, her tone, her accent even, which I tried to imagine coming from maybe, yes, the Bronx. That's where they were. Okay, so now you're tuned in, you're made wise to what to expect. Don't be tricked now as we get to the end of the poem, but there's such a deepness to her. The beginning of the Great Depression in the 30s brought another marked change in her life and poetry. The Jazz Age, right? The feather boa, the hat, the cropped hair, the bob, as they called it, reminds me of my mother, really, in the 20s and 30s. So let's pull up the next poem, Chris, and see how loud the chuckles get.
Resume. Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acids stain you, and drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses give, gas smells awful. You might as well live.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Have you ever heard of a poem recited that has such a swift twist at the end? You might as well live. Suicide is too painful. Isn't that funny, her little lilt or lisp or whatever that was when she said the title of the poem, Resume. Resume. Maybe a little affected French accent? I don't know. Poem speaks for itself. We don't have to do much thinking. And it's getting good. Next one. Yeah. Ooh. What's coming?
Afternoon. When I am old and comforted and done with this desire, with memory to share my bed and peace to share my fire, I'll comb my hair in scalloped bands beneath my laundered cap and watch my cool and fragile hands lie light upon my lap. And I will have a sprigged gown with lace to kiss my throat. I'll draw my curtain to the town and hum a purring note. And I'll forget the way of tears and rock and stir my tea. But oh, I wish those blessed years were further than they be.
Wow. So we've come through her life cycle from early exuberance through a more settled and aware, less naive awareness of the world in the 30s. And now she's in her rocker. Oh, that's fascinating. Stirring her tea, drawing the curtain to the town, shutting herself out. But what's she got? She's got memories. And the memories impinge, they come up. I'm there, I'm 80, I know what you're talking about, Dorothy. Whoa, it's a whole new life of memory because it's fresher than current life. It's so much more vital and alive. You know, as I stir my tea at home and pet the cat and draw the curtain. Well, that's been the story of COVID for 2 years. How delicate, you know, as the lace kisses her throat. She's all dressed up almost like Emily Dickinson, proper at the end of her life. It's a much more serious poem, isn't it? It doesn't have froth or bubbles of champagne. That's her. She's Mrs. Champagne for sure. No, it's more settled, serious, deeper, and oh, what does she say at the end? I wish they were, because the pain is in the memory too. It's all about love affairs, right? She's about love affairs and the joy, exhilaration, and the pain. I think we got another one. Or, yes, Chris, I think we have another one there, don't we? No. All right, it's a wrap for Dorothy. But I want to read a couple of more sentences and a couple of interesting. This is not sexist because it was written in the 30s. News item, this was referred to in the intro. News item, men seldom make passes at girls who wear glasses. End of story. That's Dorothy Parker. Okay, so what did she do in her life besides writing and working for Vogue magazine and Vanity Fair and being the poetry editor and also a general prose writer who gathered a coterie of followers because of her witticisms. And what did they do? They met for lunch at the Algonquin Hotel in New York City, downtown Manhattan. The charmed circle, so to speak, from that era, late 30s, 40s. We're sitting at the Algonquin Hotel for lunch in this big circle table, and we're all sharing these great quips, witticisms. We're upstaging each one of us with who can say the sharpest, sometimes the bitterest wit. Song of one of the girls. Women. Women are a subject for her. Here in my heart I am Helen. I'm Aspasia and Hero. These are Greek women in the time of Homer. I'm Judith, Old Testament, and Jael and Madame de Stael. I'm Salome, Moon of the East. Here in my soul I am Sappho. Sappho? Greek poetess? 7th century BC? And I memorized a quote from Sappho. If you are squeamish, don't prod the beach rubble. 7th century BC. Lady Hamilton am I, 18th century as well. In me, Recamier vies with Kitty O'Shea. Who was Kitty O'Shea? Oh, the Irish Revolution. With Dido, oh, Greek mythology. And Eve, of Adam and Eve fame. And poor Nell. I'm of the glamorous ladies at whose beckoning history shook. But you are a man and see only my pan. So I stay at home with a book. She didn't do the obvious rhyme, cook. She left it out. But you are a man and see only my pan, my cooking pan. So I stay at home with a book. She tricks you at the end. Love it. Song of one of the girls. I'll read that resume poem again, just in case you didn't negotiate her accent. Resume. Razors pain you. Rivers are damp. Acid stains you. And drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful. Nooses give. Gas smells awful. You might as well live. Oh, and then, thank goodness, poetry speaks. That's where we get them. What a collection. This is the kicker. This is the rap. This is the one that she's probably well known for. A pig's eye view of literature. Now, what poet is going to say that or title something? The Lives and Times of John Keats, Percy Bysshe Shelley, and George Gordon Noel Byron, better known as Byron, Shelley, and Keats, or to us undergrads at Fairfield University, Byron, Kelly, and Sheets. Okay. Byron and Shelley and Keats were a trio of lyrical treats. The forehead of Shelley was cluttered with curls, and Keats never was a descendant of earls. He's the only one of them that didn't come born with a silver spoon in his life. No nobility in his family. Pauper. And Byron walked out with a number of girls, but it didn't impair the poetical feats of Byron and Shelley, of Byron and Shelley, of Byron and Shelley and Keats. Hear her rhythm, her repetition? We heard that earlier. Oscar Wilde, if with the literate I am impelled to try an epigram, I never seek to take the credit. We all assume that Oscar said it. Harriet Beecher Stowe, the pure and worthy Mrs. Stowe is one we are all proud to know as mother, wife, and authoress. Thank God I am content with less. Charles Dickens, who call him spurious and shoddy, shall do it over my lifeless body. I heartily invite such birds to come outside and say those words. Wow. And then George Sand. George Sand is the pen name of a French writer, female woman who was the paramour, the lover of Chopin, the piano genius. George Sand. What time the gifted lady took away from paper, pen, and book, she spent in amorous dalliance. They do those things so well in France. Dorothy, you the best. Wow, that was something. And we heard her verse. Well, maybe one more. Encore. The lady's reward. Lady, lady, never start conversation toward your heart. Keep your pretty words serene. Never murmur what you mean. Show yourself by word and look, swift and shallow as a brook. Be as cool and quick to go as a drop of April snow. Be as delicate and gay as a cherry flower in May. Lady, lady, never speak of the tears that burn your cheek. She will never win him whose words had shown she feared to lose. Be you wise and never sad. You will get your lovely lad. Never serious be, nor true, and your wish will come to you. And if that makes you happy, kid, you'll be the first that ever did. So the game of love is not winnable. In her remarks, the lady's reward. How interesting that she was born in a time of before women's suffrage. We're talking growing up 1893, 1993, 2000. Yeah, growing up before the Roaring Twenties, being imbued with the culture of women at home and all the pre-liberation, pre-feminist, pre-understanding of the gifts of women, and then saying, I won't have any of that. She was the original rebel in the 20s and 30s. And she shares that with a couple of other women poets at the time. So they blew the lid off and challenged convention and stuck out on their own as first rate and as equal as any man in the profession. Journalism, writing, editing, poetry. Good for you, Dorothy. Trailblazer. I really love your stuff. Okay. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to transition into Rita Dove, who just came out with a wonderful new collection. After 14 years, and Kathleen, the librarian in Clinton Library, stopped me one day and said, Frank, Rita Dove's got a new book out. Wow. And that started me. So I've got the collection, and I've got Rita right here. and we're going to enjoy some of her poetry. She's coming of age in the 60s and 70s and actually inspired some of my poetry. So, take a 3-minute break, get another cup of coffee, and come on back. Yeah.
Smart TVs and streaming services have taken over the television industry. VSC TV is proud to announce our presence on Apple TV and Roku to make watching your favorite shows even easier. You can access this service by downloading the Cablecast ScreenWeave app. Then choose Valley Shore Community TV from the list of channels. Select VSC TV Live to watch our channel in full HD. Or pick a show from our on-demand video library. VSC TV is your local Connecticut Midshore Valley digital connection.
Information is power, especially in times of uncertainty.
In the age of 24/7 breaking news headlines, viral tweets, and social media rumors, we all need to take extra steps to verify information before accepting and sharing what we read online.
Whether inaccurate information is purposely posted to deceive or defraud individuals or shared unknowingly by people who believe it's true, misinformation can be dangerous.
Is there a vaccine?
Are certain blood types immune?
Are additional stimulus checks coming?
When will we open back up?
Questions are expected,
and they deserve accurate answers.
We need you to rely on information from official sources and credible subject matter experts.
For both Connecticut-specific information and federal resources, visit ct.gov/coronavirus.
Contact tracing is one of the best voluntary ways to stop the spread of COVID-19, and information provided will be kept private. But imposters might pretend to be contact tracers to get access to your personal information or money. Real contact tracers will never ask for your social security number or financial information. You'll receive text or emails from contact tracers only if you have opted in. If you don't recognize the tracer's phone number, contact your local health department. To learn more about contact tracing, please visit portal.ct.gov/coronavirus/contact.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
I'm Frank Crowley. This is the second half of our first show of 22, Women Poets of America. And I was shuffling, looking for the poem that Rita Dove inspired in me when I was in Tucson 20 years ago at the Poetry Center of the University of Arizona, learning my craft, practicing it, and meeting all the poets of the Southwest. Something struck me about Rita Dove back then. We're talking 20 years ago. And now she's got this new collection, which is a follow-up to collected poems 1974 to 2004, so that covers those decades. And then she took a break and then came out with this 2 years ago, which is her latest collection and first one in 14 years. Pretty cool. So I know her. I knew of her, but who is she? Well, we've got a picture of her. And Chris is going to pull up this photo, which is Rita Dove, looking very happy as the creative writing professor at the University of Virginia. A long academic career as well as politically and socially prominent. How wonderful that is. And she also looks a little older in the jacket of this book, but clearly the same lady who's evolving as a poet. Rita Dove, Pulitzer Prize and former U.S. Poet Laureate. Now we're talking. This is a career. She is the only poet honored with both the National Humanities Medal and the National Medal of Arts. Whoa, okay. Her recent works include Sonata Melodica, from Mulatto, Sonata Melodica, and the National Book Award shortlisted collected poems. That would be this. So the National Book Award honored that. Wow, shortlisted. She is awarded the Gold Medal for Poetry from the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. She lives in Charlottesville, where she teaches creative writing at the University of Virginia. You go, girl. Okay. You may notice as we go on in the 20th century that the women poets, besides liberation and social justice and gender politics and all other kind of politics, the women poets are more in the forefront. Dorothy Parker, trailblazer, okay. Well, Rita Dove has a few things to say about the last 2 decades. I'm just gonna plunge in, but we're gonna do it retrospective. Again, this is from the newest collection. I took the liberty because my site asks me to read a larger print. Okay, can you guess who? Title of the poem, Keep Your Storied Pomp. Wonder who she's talking about. 12th testimony. So she's got 12 testimonies about the last 20 years. And we're going from the 12th back down to the 1st. We'll see how far we get. 12th testimony, Trump. Granted, it felt good at first to snicker, but now the rooster won't shut up. How exhausting. Waking to that imperious caw. Old McDonald's downsized to a flower pot. Here a body, there a body, sent packing, caged. Everywhere, somebody muddied. Welcome to the age of Babel. Here a Twitter, there a tweet, a tiki torch march. Ooh, University of Virginia, that fascist march. Ooh, back to the good old times of mayhem and murder. Hollow points blossoming all over. Hollow points, those are bullets. She's using a figure of speech, blossoming. Everywhere a body, everywhere a bloody body, even the earth is bleeding out. Oh, indolent friends, bitter patriots, what have you triggered that can't be undone? Okay, so the book came out, and then January 6th happened. That's what that's about, predicting January 6th. Wow, Rita, knock 'em dead. Yeah. Okay. going to switch to the epilogue because we got to come in from the big perspective. The Sunset Gates. Who's speaking here? You guess for a minute. I didn't ask to stand under a crown of spikes with my book and my torch, forgotten like a lamp left burning in the corner. My shoulder aches, my toes are throbbing. I'd rather bathe in a park fountain or cast benediction from the shadowy nest of a cathedral's gilded ribs. Who's speaking? The Statue of Liberty, of course. Liberty's pale green maiden stranded. Come visit, ascend to the crown and gaze out at the nation I've sworn to watch over. I stand ready to tell you what I have seen. Who among you is ready to listen? Wow. So she appropriates different voices. Wow. To get her point. Imprisoned lightning, down to the 10th testimony. This is about 9/11. I wish I could say she inspired me to write my 9/11 poem, but I hadn't read this, but I wrote my own. In cartoons, the arrow punches through with a poing, then quivers to a standstill. Our cue to laugh before Bugs or Elmer Fudd plucks it off and the hunt goes on. That's how I saw it, a classic slow-mo clip. Action drawn out so it can be savored. The target shimmering in sunlight, oblivious. Something big was about to happen, was happening. No one had seen this episode before, so we did nothing but stare as the second arrow struck the second plane into the second tower. Neat, not even a pop, but who remembers listening? Just a delicate puff before the world crumbled into a roar that went on forever, blotting out all animal comprehension. Not even a thought balloon survived to place against the bluest of mornings. So in the art of poetry, the poet also can appropriate a figure of speech. And in this case, we watch cartoons. Oh, we adults, we're hopeless. We're watching cartoons. We expect the coverage of 9/11 to be cartoonish because our mind is conditioned that way. Holy cow. And what's the Statue of Liberty saying? We have fallen asleep on liberty. We're not listening. We're not aware. Send these to me. 11th testimony. Obama. Surely there can be no more princes, yet here we are reinventing the magic year of love. What was that? 1968, the flower power. Through the music is scarred and there's always a war or two going on. At least the system seems to be working. You voted, done the counting, and there he stands, America's miracle. Fruit of bold dreams and labor. Ladies and gents, the unimaginable is open for business. A black president. Go figure. Assemble your buoyant prophecies. Who wouldn't want to believe in legends again, oblivious to everything except astonishment? Well done. Felicitations. And now the story is yours. So what have we done with the story? Okay, back to the 90s. Do you remember the 90s? Worldwide welcome. 9th testimony, the 90s. Neat. Hubba Bubba bubble tape. Chicken pita wrapped to go. Pop rocks Push Pops, Dipping Dots, Oreos, Beanie Babies by the handful, wool or pleather, felt or straw, mood rings for internal weather, Wonder Bra. Page my Palm Pilot when you're done. I'll cut through the traffic mess and pull up curbside in my Saturn. Thank you, GPS. Who wouldn't want to be a millionaire or a real-life princess or king of the world? Map your jeans and pierce your navel, Spice Girl. Fire up the circuits in your PlayStation. If you're Game Boy, I'll tickle your Elmo. How's your Tamagotchi been hanging? Oh, Mario. Magic's vanished from the court. Great Gretzky has exited the ice. He was a legend. Ice hockey. Buffy or Baywatch, Cosmo or Xena, reality bites. Give me a logo to go with my Windows, eBay for old, Amazon for new, a Hubble, a Canon, an Apple a day. And we all shout, Yahoo! Oh, I wish I could hear her read that one. Aha! Giant. Ali, 10th Testament. Butterfly, butterfly on the wall, can't you hear your country call? Remember Muhammad Ali? No war from me. Black man's got no business being both pretty and bold. With a right hook, as swift as his banter, his feet a flurry of insults disguised as dance. There's a war going on, but he's having none of it. He flicks those angry eyes, then flings out a rhyme, quick as tossing a biscuit to a dog. He's our homegrown warrior, America's toffee-tanned titan. How dare he swagger in the name of peace? No black man strutting his minstrel ambitions deserve those eloquent lips. Those eloquent lips. Swat 'em down, pin 'em to the mat. On and on they mutter, hell-bent on keeping their own destiny unscathed, and brazenly manifest. Oh yeah. Vietnam War, the 70s, Watergate. He was unconquerable socially, social justice. Huddle, 4th testimony, Watergate. I'm not a crook. And people believed him, persuaded by flags and honor guard that he had trusted his generals' reports did not justify terminating their trust in him. I'm not a crook. Oh. Leader of the free world, balls deep in the muck of a war no one would claim to have started, though everyone agreed it must be brought to an end sooner rather than later, by any means necessary, he was thinking as he recorded another muddy deal. The secret tape recordings. Then sent his plumbers out to plug the leaks. The plumbers, Watergate. Who wouldn't prefer to be standing high and dry with someone else's fingers in the dike? A little eavesdropping, a few ruffled papers, hardly constitutes a heist. Let's call it a domestic incursion. And that the facts have been brought to light means the system is working. No need for alarm. A crook is just a bend in the road, not yet traveled. He's simply waiting for the smoke to clear. Isn't that funny how the perversion of language creeps in now after Watergate? Black is white. Red is green. Truth is falsehood and falsehood is truth. It's the perversion of language. Wow. And my college roommate wrote a blockbuster book on the history of the American political parties for 250 years. And the title of the book is Pragmatism, Politics, and Perversion. In other words, how the political parties have engaged in the perversion of language over the last 50 years. And look what we have now, right? If we can't rely on the poets to let us know what's coming down the pike, or the philosophers, the queen of philosophy, as Joe, the writer, my roommate, says. You're tired, you're poor. First testimony, we're back to 1968. Who comforts you now that the wheel has broken? What wheel? Here's the trope, the poetic figure of speech, the metaphor. Ah, the wheel of society, the wheel of democracy, 1968, the Democratic National Convention, the riots in Chicago. No more princes for the poor, loss whittling you thin, grief is the constant now, hope the last word spoken. How bleak. It's also the year after Flower Power in 1967 in San Francisco. Contrast, amazing. And a dance of two elegies, which circles the drain, a token year with its daisies and carbines is where we begin. Again, 67 daisies, carbines 68. Vietnam, Chicago. Who comforts you now that the wheel has broken is Mechanics 101. To keep dreaming when the joke's on you? Well, crazier legends have been written. Grief is the constant now. Hope the last word spoken. Isn't repetition powerful in poetry? The last word spoken on a motel balcony, shouted in a hotel kitchen. Martin Luther King shot on a hotel balcony. Robert Kennedy shot in a hotel kitchen, 1968. No kin can make this journey for you. The route's locked in. Who comforts you now that the wheel has broken? The social contract, the social compact, too. The bodies of its makers, beyond the smoke and ashes, what you hear rising is nothing but the wind. Smoke and ashes in Chicago, for sure. Who comforts you now that the wheel has broken? Grief is the constant. Hope the last word spoken. 1969, second testimony. We've covered a lot of ground. Bridged air. Year of the moon, year of love and music. Everyone in batik, dripping beads and goodwill. Peace to the world, peace to the universe, sing along, kiss a stranger, blankets quilting the hill. Woodstock, 3 days of music. Did you really imagine this was all the excuse you would need? Rain be damned, rock and roll in the mud. The bread can run low, but please not the weed. Then the last one steps on stage, fringed like a wild saint. Do you see it, he pleads? A scorched sound. Ooh, was that Jimi Hendrix I hear? Ooh, that's my interjection. Hear it, lost in combat, blind to love, your anthem shredding the heavens as the bombs pour down. Woodstock, Vietnam. Come on. The wheel is broken. I don't know, you blew my socks off. You're so good, Rita. you were good back then, and you're really good now. Okay. Gotta end on a minute of hope. There's always hope. Even at the end of the poem, that poem of despair, there's always hope. And hope is what we look to. So back to the benedictions and the blessings. Oh, yeah. He was a former Catholic priest, actually. He started in Ireland, lived there most of his life. To bless the space between us, John O'Donohue. A book of blessings, but I call them poems. This is his introduction to callings. In other words, we read the one for the nurse. Next week we'll read for another front line. Someone asked me recently, what it is that haunts you? I said, I can tell you exactly. It is the sense of time slipping through my fingers like fine sand, and there's nothing I can do to slow it. Let me tell you, at 80, he's got it. This is what I'm feeling. One of the Psalms prays, quote from the Old Testament, "O Lord, help me to see the shortness of life, that I may gain wisdom of heart. As we get older, time seems to speed up. The sense of transience haunts nearly every heart. You feel that you could suddenly arrive at your last day, incredulous that that was it. It's all over." Wow. Those feel written on my heart because that's where I am. Although, personally, and aside, after 2 years of battling COVID, I feel born again, as if I had died for 2 years or slept for 2 like Rip Van Winkle. And I woke up with a clear head, no more cognitive impairment. From time immemorial, it has been one of the deepest longings of the human heart to strain against the erosion of one's life. Amen. To find a way of living and being that manages to find some stable ground within time, a place from where something eternal can be harvested from our disappearance. This is what all art strives for, the creation of living permanence. It is what we are secretly doing when we become parents. Endeavoring to maintain our continuity beyond our own ending. And then Isaiah, one of my favorite sayings from the Old Testament. Isaiah, quote, "I will grant you long life so that you may enjoy the fullness of salvation." I guess I feel 10 times blessed. Although wisdom is hard won, as Rita Dove will tell you in the power of that poem, the last one. And thank you. Thank you, Rita. And thank you, great poems of and by American women. And hopefully, on February 16th, we'll actually top this show because Gemma will be back. And Gemma's got something to say about the 60s too. So, March, stay tuned. We're going to have some celebration of Elizabeth Bishop. We'll let you know, to be announced, the date. And I'm so glad to have spent this hour. I don't know, I feel reawakened and just blessed to have known a couple of poets like this. Yeah. Dorothy Parker. Oh, Rita Dove. And stay tuned. We're going to travel to Chile for a visit. So this is Frank Crowley. I'm glad you tuned in. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate the set and the design and the joy we've shared together. And see you in February 16th. Thank you so much.